The lantern on Route 9. It started like every dumb decision you make when you're 20 and think death is an urban legend. We were driving down Route 9, a two-lane ghost of a road that nobody uses after midnight, laughing, blasting old rock, daring each other to push the gas harder. The kind of laughter that feels invincible, that fills the dark with its own echo. Then we saw him, an old man standing dead center on the asphalt. A lantern swung in his hand, its flame flickering like a heartbeat in the wind. He didn't move as our headlights carved through the fog, just stared, pale and hollow-eyed, like he'd been waiting for us. Probably a prank, Ben said from the back seat, already half drunk, or some psycho hitchhiker. But I don't know. Something about him froze me. Maybe it was the way the light from that lantern didn't reflect in his eyes. Maybe it was how he didn't blink. Either way, I told Mark to stop the car. The tires screeched against the wet road, the world sliding into silence except for the faint buzz of the lantern flame. The old man leaned into the open window. His breath smelled like damp earth and smoke. "Just need a ride to the bridge," he said. The way he said it, calm, rehearsed, sent a chill crawling down my neck. Ben snorted. "What bridge?" The man tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "The one that crosses the river." Mark frowned. "There's no river for miles." The old man's lips twitched, not quite a smile. There was. That should have been the cue to drive off. But instead I heard my own voice saying, "Get in." He did, quietly, smoothly, like someone who'd done it before. And as we pulled back onto Route 9, the lantern resting on his knees glowed brighter, steady, rhythmic, like it was keeping time. I told myself it was nothing, that the air just felt heavier because of the fog, but deep down I knew better. Something had shifted the moment we stopped that car, and whatever it was coming with us. The scream caught in my throat before it ever made a sound. The back door was still locked, the window fogged, the seatbelt buckle hanging loose where Ben had been seconds ago. "Mark," I whispered, "stop the car." He didn't hear me, or maybe he did and refused to believe what I'd said. His knuckles were bone white on the steering wheel. The headlights cut through a wall of mist, revealing a shape ahead, an old wooden bridge, slick and shining like it had just been dragged from a riverbed. "There is no bridge on Route 9, I said louder this time. "There isn't." But Mark's eyes were glassy, distant. "Then what's that?" The old boards stretched into the fog, vanishing into nothing. The lantern on the floor flickered brighter, almost pulsing. Then the car's engine sputtered and died. Everything went black. The lights, the dashboard, even the hum of the world outside. And that's when I heard it. Ben's voice, soft, wet, whispering my name from somewhere beyond the bridge. I opened the door before my brain could stop me. The air outside was freezing, thick with the smell of river rot. I took a few steps forward, my shoes sinking slightly into damp gravel. The mist clung to my skin like fingers. "Ben?" The sound came again, clearer now. A choked laugh, maybe a cough. But it was him. Behind me, the car's door slammed shut. I spun around. Mark was gone. Just the lantern, like sitting upright on the hood, its light steady and cruel. Something moved beneath the bridge. The planks creaked like breath. I knelt, peering into the dark water, and saw a reflection, not mine, but three of them. Mark, Ben, the old man, all standing behind me. I turned, but the road was empty. The mist shifted, revealing faint tire marks leading halfway across the bridge, and then ending abruptly, as if the car had been swallowed whole. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. The lantern's flame flared one last time before dying out completely, leaving me in total darkness. And in that black silence, the voice came again, closer this time. "Your turn." A cold hand gripped my shoulder. I stumbled out of the car, the gravel biting through my shoes. The fog pulsed, swallowing everything beyond arm's reach. The drop-off stretched wide beneath me, a black pit where the world ended. "Ben," I shouted. My voice cracked like it didn't belong to me. No echo, no wind, just that dead air, like the night was holding its breath. Then I saw it again, the glow. Far below, the lantern's light flickered underwater, drifting like a drowned firefly. And beside it, something rose. A hand, pale, boneless, reaching upward. I should have run. Every instinct screamed it. But guilt is heavier than fear, and mine had been growing since the moment I told Ben to stop laughing, to let the old man in. So I climbed down. The rocks were slick. The cold cut deep, and the world narrowed to the sound of rushing water and my breath breaking apart. At the edge of the riverbank, I found a half-rotten plank, the same wood the bridge had been made from, and then I heard him, the old man's voice, thin as a whisper through reeds. "You brought him where he needed to go." I turned, and there he was, lantern burning bright in his hand again, though the flame moved wrong, bending with the wind like it was alive. His eyes shimmered, black as the water behind him. "Where is he?" I demanded. "Where's Ben?" He stepped closer, the ground beneath him rippling like liquid. He crossed, as you will. Something inside me broke, panic, grief, like disbelief twisting together into rage. I lunged for the lantern, grabbing it from his hand. The moment I did, everything changed. The river screamed. The fog thrashed like it was alive. Faces, Mark's, Ben's, hundreds of others, flashed beneath the water's skin. And each one was me, over and over at different ages, all trapped mid-reach, frozen in the act of saving someone. Then came the whisper, right against my ear. "You can't help the lost by joining them." I dropped the lantern. The instant it hit the water, light exploded outward, blinding, searing, and the world snapped. The bridge was gone, the river was gone, and I was standing back on Route 9, alone. The lantern's glow flickered faintly in the passenger seat. The first few weeks after it happened were a blur. Police lights, search parties, and questions that didn't have answers. They said I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like something had been ripped out of me and left floating somewhere under that river that didn't exist. Mark's car was found a mile up the road, engine cold, doors unlocked, his wallet still inside. No sign of him. No Ben. Just muddy footprints leading toward the empty drop where the bridge used to be. The sheriff called it panic and misadventure. I called it something else, punishment. For months I dreamed of that lantern. It would swing slowly in the dark, light reflecting off unseen water. Each time I tried to move closer, the ground vanished beneath me. I'd wake up gasping, the smell of river rot still in my lungs. Eventually, I stopped talking about it. People don't like stories that don't end neatly. I moved towns, sold my car, swore off late-night drives. But the guilt, it didn't fade. It just changed its shape. Every October, Route 9 calls me back like a bad habit. I tell myself I'm just passing through, just curious. But when the air turns cold and the leaves start to burn orange, I find myself parked on the shoulder, staring into the fog. Sometimes I see it again, that faint, pulsing light in the distance. One moment it's there, the next it's gone. I've even heard voices, the same off-key humming Ben used to do when he was trying not to laugh. The first year, I ran. The second year, I stayed longer. This last year, I rolled down my window and whispered, "I'm sorry." The wind shifted. Something flickered near the trees, a soft glow answering me back. That's when I realized that twisted my stomach into a knot. The light wasn't out there anymore. It was in the reflection of my windshield, faint behind my shoulder, swinging in rhythm with my heartbeat. And this time it wasn't asking for a ride. It was waiting for one. At first, I told myself it was a dream, that I'd never gone back to Route 9. But dreams don't leave footprints. They don't leave tire marks in places that don't exist on maps. The first year, I woke up on the shoulder with the lantern in my hand. I don't remember picking it up, but its glass was warm, pulsing faintly like something alive. The flame inside never went out, no matter how hard I tried to snuff it. I buried it. I threw it into a creek. It always found its way back, sitting on my doorstep, dry as bone. By the second October, I stopped fighting it. Guilt had turned into something heavier. Duty, maybe, or fate. Now I understand what the old man meant that night. The road doesn't forget its passengers. It just waits for new ones. So yes, I walk Route 9 every October. Lantern swinging by my side. The flame burns steady, guiding me down the same cracked asphalt where my friends vanished. People say they see me. Some claim they pick me up. They talk about the cold air in the car, how their headlights dimmed, how their GPS went wild before the fog rolled in. They never remember the rest. But I do. I remember every face, every startled look when they realize the bridge shouldn't be there, every scream that vanishes into the water. I'm not sure if I'm the curse or the keeper anymore, maybe both, maybe neither. Sometimes I wonder if Ben's out there too, walking his own stretch of road, waving at strangers who think they're helping. The flame flickers now as I speak. Maybe because someone's getting close. Maybe because the road's ready to start again. If you ever find yourself driving down Route 9 after midnight and you see a light ahead, don't stop, because I'll be there, waiting. And this time, it'll be your turn to take the ride. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like the video. It helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive. Subscribe for more haunting tales every night, and share this one with someone who loves a good scare. Thanks for watching. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. I'll see you tomorrow, if the road lets you. The House That Waited. It started with a photograph. I just wanted a few shots of the autumn woods behind my grandmother's old farmhouse, the place everyone in town called the Waiting House. I hadn't been there in over 20 years. The drive up was longer than I remembered, the road narrower, eaten at the edges by moss and fog. The trees leaned in close, whispering against the car windows. Every few miles, my headlights would flash over an old fence post or a rusted mailbox, tiny reminders that people used to live here. But now, it was just the woods and me. When I reached the farmhouse, the sun was falling behind the ridge, setting everything in shades of bruised orange. The paint had peeled from the siding like old skin. The orchard she once kept so neatly had gone wild, branches tangled, apples hanging soft and swollen from neglect. The air smelled like rain and rot, like the house had been breathing too long in the dark. Still, I thought it would be nostalgic. One last visit before the house gave up and sank back into the earth. I wanted to photograph it the way memory paints, soft, forgiving, almost kind. But the second I opened the front door, the air changed. The smell hit first. Something old, something sweet and wrong, like fruit left too long in a closed room. Then came the sound. Her rocking chair, moving, slow, rhythmic, like someone had just stood up. The house groaned as the wind scraped at its bones, but the chair kept rocking, steady as a heartbeat. I froze in the doorway, the camera strap biting into my neck. And the worst part? It stopped the second I said her name. That's when I realized this house hadn't been abandoned. It had been waiting. I tried to laugh it off. Drafts, I told myself. Old wood settling, memory playing tricks. But the longer I stayed, the harder it was to convince myself the house was just wood and nails. It wasn't just quiet, it was listening. Each time I took a step, another echoed just behind mine. Not the usual hollow creak of an old floorboard, but something that paused when I did, hesitated like a breath, then followed. The air in the hallway was dense, heavy with the smell of apples gone too sweet, sugar turning to mold. Dust floated like ash in the afternoon light. I lifted my camera, half to distract myself, half to prove the moment was real. But through the lens, the hallway looked different, longer, darker, and somehow deeper than before. Click. When I checked the photo on my screen, there was a shape near the far end. Faint, small, a rocking chair maybe. But I hadn't gone that far yet. I told myself I was imagining it. Grief, nostalgia, whatever you call the feeling that drags the past out of its grave for one more conversation. Still, when I reached her bedroom, the air changed again. It was colder, but the kind of cold that comes from inside your ribs. That's when I smelled them, the apples. Not rotting this time, but fresh, sharp, and alive. A bowl sat on her dresser, 6 perfect red apples, skin smooth, stems clean. I stared at them, waiting for reason to catch up. The house had been sealed for over a decade. There were cobwebs on the curtains, dust thick enough to write in. So how could there be fresh fruit? That's when I noticed the bowl itself. It wasn't glass like I remembered. It was porcelain, cracked around the rim, and inside the cracks, something dark had seeped through, like dried blood. I backed away, camera still in hand. The lens caught something in the mirror beside the dresser, a blur of movement. I turned. Nothing, but the rocking chair had started again, slow, rhythmic, and I swear beneath that sound I heard her voice, faint, fragile, almost kind. It said, "You finally came back." My grandmother had been dead 12 years, but in that house time didn't move forward, it circled, and now I was part of it. The storm broke without warning, like the sky itself had been waiting for this moment too. Thunder cracked open the silence, rain slashed against the windows, and the whole house shuddered as if it were alive, gulping down every flash of light. I dropped the camera. It hit the floor with a hollow crack, echoing down the hall. I didn't even look back. I just ran. The front door was only 10 steps away. 10 steps, and I'd be free. But when I reached for the handle, it wouldn't turn. The wood had swollen shut, pulsing warm under my hands. It was like the house was breathing through it, keeping me in. Behind me, the chair began to rock again, slow at first, then faster. Each creak cut through the thunder like a pulse, beating in rhythm with my own. "Stop," I whispered. My voice trembled. "Please, just stop." The chair didn't listen. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of apples, dust, and something that smelled like wet soil. The same scent from her orchard, the one they buried her beside. I turned. The chair was moving so fast now it blurred, wood cracking, the floorboards groaning under its weight. Lightning flashed across the room, and for one split second I saw her sitting there. Not old, not frail, alive. Her eyes met mine, and I knew that look. The same look she gave when she'd tell me stories as a child, stories about things that waited, patient and hungry. "Grandma," my voice broke, "you're gone. You're not real." She smiled, slow, knowing. "Don't you know? You never left." The words didn't sound like comfort. They sounded like a curse. I stumbled backwards, slamming into the wall. The mirror beside the door flashed with lightning. I turned toward it and froze. The reflection wasn't mine. The face staring back was lined with age, hollow-eyed, hair silvered with years I hadn't lived. My hands, wrinkled, shaking. Like time had moved without me, like the house had been feeding. The chair stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the storm. Because in that stillness, I understood. The house hadn't been waiting for her return. It had been waiting for mine. When I woke, the world had gone still. The storm had passed, leaving the orchard glistening with dew. The air smelled clean, almost innocent, like the night before had been nothing but a fever dream. But the house was quiet a way that wasn't peace. It was the kind of quiet that listens. My legs felt heavy, every step a struggle, as if the floorboards had grown roots around my feet during the night. I stumbled toward the front door. This time, it opened without protest. The hinges didn't even creak. Outside, the morning sun hit my eyes hard. The world looked different, washed out, thinner somehow. I clutched my camera against my chest like a relic. It was cracked, but the screen flickered on. I didn't remember taking any photos. Not after the storm started. Not after her. But there they were, dozens of shots, perfectly framed. Each one showed the same thing, the rocking chair, mid-sway, facing the mirror by the door. And in every reflection, a man sat watching. Same eyes, same jacket. Me, but older, decades older. I scrolled faster, heart pounding. In each photo, the man grew younger, frame by frame, until finally, he was me now. The last photo showed the empty chair still in motion, and my reflection gone entirely. The realization hit like a second storm. The house hadn't haunted me. It had recorded me. It had kept every visit, every glance loud, every heartbeat, and replayed them in its own time. I turned back toward it, half expecting to see movement in the window. Nothing. Just curtains swaying softly like the house was exhaling. But then, faintly, from somewhere deep inside, I heard it again, the creak of the rocking chair. Steady, patient, waiting. I raised my camera one last time, aimed it at the doorway, and clicked. The preview blinked on. The chair was empty. But this time, there was a figure standing behind it. Not my grandmother. Not me. Something else. And even now, as I sit here describing it, I can still hear the faint rhythm from that photograph. Rocking, rocking, rocking. Like the house remembering how to breathe. The house still stands at the edge of town. Weathered, silent, almost harmless looking. Like time forgot to finish the job. The locals pass it without slowing down. Kids dare each other to throw stones at its windows, though none of them ever do. They say it's empty, but they also say that at dusk, if the light hits the glass just right, you can see movement inside. A slow rhythm, a familiar sway, the rocking chair. I've tried to convince myself that what happened that night was a trick of the storm, a fracture in the mind caused by grief and memory colliding. But every photograph still exists, each one untouched, dated and time-stamped for the night I was there. Each one proof that something was inside that house and that it looked like me. I sometimes dream of it, the sound of the chair creaking, the faint smell of apples, the cold press of the air when she whispered, "You never left." And maybe she was right. Maybe a part of me didn't. Maybe the house keeps a piece of everyone who steps inside. Last week I went back through the photos again. There was one I hadn't noticed before, buried deep in the memory card. It showed the front door, cracked open, the orchard beyond it glowing orange in the dying sun, and standing on the porch was someone holding a camera. I checked the metadata. It was taken yesterday. So maybe the house isn't haunted. Maybe it's alive, feeding, waiting, remembering. And if you ever find yourself driving down that old county road and the fog begins to thicken, don't stop when you see the house at the edge of the orchard. Don't look in the window. Don't listen for the chair. Because it isn't abandoned. It's just patient. And one day, it always gets you to come back. Thank you for listening to The House That Waited. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video to help it reach more listeners and support the channel's growth. Make sure to subscribe for more haunting tales every day and share this video with someone who loves a good chill. Another story is waiting for you on your screen right now, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Leaves don't whisper names. I was raking the yard that morning, just me, the wind, and the whisper of dry leaves scraping against the soil. You know how some sounds feel like they're trying to say something? This one did. It said my name, soft, broken, like someone testing the weight of it on their tongue. I froze. My father used to call me that way, half sigh, half scolding. But my father's been dead for 3 years. The trees around the old house bowed under the season's fatigue, skeletal and bare. Their shadows were long and bent, stretching like fingers over the frozen grass. I could smell the smoke from my neighbor's chimney, but it carried an undertone of rot, like wet wood that refused to burn clean. The rake slipped from my hands and clattered onto the ground, but I didn't pick it up. Somewhere beyond the fence, something moved, slow, deliberate, the crunch of leaves under feet that shouldn't exist. Memory can't hurt you, I whispered to myself. It's the lie every grieving soul tells. But the truth? Memory lingers. It waits in corners, hides in wind, and wears familiar voices like masks. I looked toward the oak by the edge of the property, the one my father planted the day I was born. Its branches were empty, but beneath it lay a small pile of leaves that seemed untouched by the wind. Still, perfect, waiting. And then again the voice came, closer this time, from the direction of that oak. My name. Only now it wasn't soft. It was pleading. I should have gone inside. I should have walked away. But grief does strange things to reason. When the dead call your name, part of you wants to answer, because maybe, just maybe, it means they never truly left. That night, I heard it again. Son? The voice came from outside, low, tired, and familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped into the cold. The leaves shifted like they were alive, circling my feet, clinging to my boots as though trying to stop me. My father's rake leaned against the shed door, just where he'd left it before the heart attack took him. Only now it stood upright, clean, polished. I hadn't touched that thing in years. When the beam of the flashlight caught it, something glimmered in the tines, something wet. I thought it was dew, but it looked darker, thicker. I wiped it with my sleeve. The stain came away red. The wind pushed through the branches, and the sound it made wasn't quite wind anymore. It was breath. Heavy. Close. I backed toward the porch, but the ground seemed to sigh under me, like the earth itself exhaled through those dry leaves. I could swear I heard them whisper again all at once, a chorus of soft voices repeating my name. By the third night, the voice became sentences. Please, regrets. My father saying, you left me in the dirt. I stopped sleeping. I started leaving the porch light on, though it didn't help much. The shadows under the trees only grew thicker, denser, as if they were feeding on the glow. One morning, I found the rake lying by the oak tree, buried halfway into the soil. The same spot where my father had once planted flowers for my mother. The ground there had sunk a little, just enough to make it look like something or someone had been trying to crawl out. The next night, the whispers moved inside. The first time I heard them from the attic, I froze halfway up the stairs. It wasn't the voice that stopped me. It was the rhythm, like someone sweeping. One scrape, then another, steady, patient. I climbed the steps anyway, stupidly clutching the flashlight like it could protect me. The air up there was cold and heavy with dust, but in the corner, under the single window, there it was, my father's old chair, rocking. And then the whisper came again, closer than it had ever been. Help me remember. That's when I saw it, the pile of dead leaves forming slowly at my feet, inside the house. The whispering didn't stop. It clawed at the edges of my hearing, closer, louder, until I couldn't tell if it was the wind, my mind, or something moving beneath the soil. By dawn, I'd had enough. I grabbed the rake, the same one that kept appearing clean, waiting, and marched toward the oak tree. The air was colder than before, thick with the scent of earth turned wet. Every step felt heavier, as if the ground didn't want me there. I started raking, harder and harder, until the whispers turned into voices. Dozens of them, some angry, some pleading, all calling my name like a prayer that had gone unanswered for too long. The rake's metal teeth caught on something solid. The sound wasn't like hitting a root or a rock, it was hollow. I dropped to my knees, dug with my hands until my nails filled with mud. And then I saw it. A box, small, wooden, the kind used for keepsakes or offerings. My hands were trembling when I opened it. Inside were old photographs, me and my father through the years. Fishing trips, birthdays, the porch at sunset. Memories that had no business being this damp, this cold. But the last photo, God, the last one stopped my breath. It was me, standing in the yard, raking, and behind me, blurred by distance but unmistakable, was a figure among the trees, bent, watching. The handwriting on the back, crooked and shaking, said, "He's still waiting for you." The ground shuddered. The oak groaned like a living thing. The wind exploded into a howl, and the leaves lifted off the ground in a frenzy, gold, brown, and red, spinning so violently I could barely see. I stumbled back, shielding my face, but the sound kept rising. My name, over and over, no longer whispers but screams. The soil bulged at the base of the tree, cracking open like breath beneath the earth. And then I heard it, clear, unmistakable, human. Son, it wasn't from the trees this time. It came from beneath the soil. I dropped the box. The photographs scattered in the wind, faces twisting as they flew. I fell to my knees, the rake slipping from my hand. My heart hammered, torn between terror and something worse, recognition. Because deep down, I finally understood what he meant. I hadn't buried him alone. He'd been waiting for me to finish what I started. By dawn, the yard looked untouched. The soil was smooth again, the oak still and silent, as if nothing had happened. But the box was gone. I told myself I'd imagined it all, hallucinated it maybe. Grief does strange things to a man left too long with his own thoughts. Still, when I picked up the rake, it felt warm. Not sun-warmed, but human-warm, like someone else's hands had just been holding it. The air was heavy, the kind of stillness that makes your ears ring. I started gathering the leaves again, slower this time, careful with every motion. I didn't want to disturb anything that might still be listening. Every scrape of the rake over the earth sounded like breathing, steady, rhythmic, alive. I told myself I'd stop after one pile, just one. But when I looked up, there were dozens, circles of leaves, all perfectly arranged around the oak. I didn't remember doing that. The morning light broke through the branches, thin and gray. It fell over the rake, glinting on the metal teeth, clean again. I crouched to pick up one stray leaf that had fallen from the pile, small and brittle, trembling in the faint wind. And that's when I heard it. Not a whisper this time. Not a memory. A breath. Close. Behind me. Don't leave me here. I froze. The rake slipped from my hands. My throat closed up. Slowly, I turned toward the voice, but there was no one there. Just the oak, still as stone. Then, from the soil at its roots, something shifted. A faint movement. The leaves rustled, not from the wind, but from underneath. Something, or someone, was trying to reach the surface. I stumbled back, tripping over the rake. My boot caught the edge of one of the piles, scattering it across the ground. Beneath the broken circle, I saw it, a fragment of wood, the same kind that made the box. My heart pounded. I knelt and brushed the dirt away, desperate and terrified all at once. There was handwriting carved into it now, fresh, as if the soil itself had written it overnight. It said only one thing: finish the burial. The wind rose again, carrying 1,000 tiny whispers, and I swear, every single one of them said my name. My name, but this time it came from below, from the dirt I just pressed down. A whisper so close it could have been inside my ear, breathing against my skin. I dropped the rake and stumbled backward. The ground pulsed once, like a heartbeat under the earth, then went still. I waited for it to move again, but the silence that followed was worse. It wasn't peace, it was expectation. For a long while, I stood there, watching the soil settle. The wind had died, and the yard felt hollow, emptied of sound. Just me, the rake, in that patch of earth that no longer looked like it belonged to the living. I told myself I was done, that I'd finish the burial, seal the past, and never come back. But that's the thing about grief. You don't bury it, you plant it, and it grows back in shapes that look familiar. I rebuilt the piles, one by one, until the yard was clean again. The rake stood upright beside the oak, waiting, always waiting. Now sometimes when the wind drifts through the branches, I hear him again. My father's voice, soft and distant, carried in the rustle of leaves. Not angry anymore, not pleading, just calling me the way he used to when dinner was ready, or when I'd wandered too far. And I answer, not out loud, not anymore, but I do. I whisper his name back just once, and the wind always stills, like he's listening, like that's all he ever wanted. I've stopped telling myself memory can't hurt. It can, it does, but it also remembers. And sometimes remembering is the only way the dead can keep breathing. So when I rake the yard now, I take my time. I listen. I don't fight the voices. I let them come. Because the dead don't haunt the living. They just remind us we were never really alone. And if you ever find yourself outside and the leaves start whispering your name, don't run, just listen. Because maybe someone's waiting for you too. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If it gave you chills, a thought, or even a whisper, like this video to help the channel grow. Subscribe for daily stories that linger in the dark, and share this with someone who listens when the wind calls their name. There's another story waiting for you on the screen. I'll see you tomorrow night.